G'day guys and welcome back to Footy Talk, your dose of all the latest AFL news, interviews and analysis in the world of Aussie rules football. And it is a Monday morning here, post all of the round 18 action. There is so much to get through, so we're going to bring in our guys straight away. Our man in the West, Ryan Daniels, welcome back. You are, firstly, never allowed to go on a holiday ever again. You leave and things just blew up over in the West.
Oh, they did. I was in Bali. I'm in a villa in Seminyak, just floating around the pool, sipping a bintang, and of course, it had to be that week that Adam Simpson got the sack. Do you want to know something insane? It's not often a coach gets sacked, and we only have 2 clubs over here, so it doesn't happen very often at all. But the last time a coach got sacked in Perth, Ross Lyon at Fremantle, I was on holiday in Thailand. This is the second time this has happened. This is remarkable. So what I will say is, whoever gets the Eagles job, and to Justin Longmuir right now, if I go on holiday at some point during a season, beware. Just make a plan. God. Have a plan B ready to go because I was flat. I had serious FOMO. Yeah. I was sitting in, as I said, I was in Bali chilling and watching the presser from the pool and just thinking, geez, what a massive story it is. And we'll get into Simo, I suppose, later once we've introduced our other man, another West Australian.
Absolutely, and everybody knows you are the hardest working man in football over in the West, so you would have been pretty flat and no doubt didn't get much relaxation with the family in Bali. But we're not meant to have favourites, right? But we absolutely do, and I'm face-to-face with one of them in studio today. Nathan Broad has joined us. Broady, great to have you on again.
Thanks, Abs. You're my favourite too.
Oh, I love that.
And
hey.
Ryan, nice to meet you, mate, for the first time.
Well, you're my favourite too now, Broady.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Hey, special comments, debut on the weekend. How did you go?
It was good.
The Dogs and
Blues.
Yep.
Yeah. So had a good crew around me, but one thing I did find out from doing it was I have the commentator's curse, that's for sure.
Ooh.
I said there was 2 goals that would be certain, and yep, sure enough, they missed. And then I gave Buku Karmas a big pump up on the job on Curnow, and literally 3 seconds later, Curnow kicks one straight through the middle. So I think it's best I keep my mouth quiet with that stuff. But no, I loved it. It was awesome. Had a great crew around me that helped me. And hopefully I can do it again.
You did a lot right yesterday, didn't you, as the Tigers, of course, going down to the GWS Giants. But plus 12 in contested possession, plus 17 inside 50s, plus 8 clearances. But unfortunately, the Giants just too good.
Yeah, I think if you look at the stats, which they're not everything, but you'd probably say either we walk away with a win and we didn't, which is unfortunate. Hats off to Giants. They're flying at the moment and they're going to contend in the finals, which is good. But, yeah, the coach, we couldn't be happier with how our boys are going. Like those stats there, you say you get that every week, you're going to be in for the fight. So Giants are really well connected at the moment. They're going inside 50. They know exactly what each other's doing. And we've played, I think, 45, 46 players this season. So we just don't have that chemistry at the moment that some of these top 8 teams do. But that's all right. We'll get to work. We'll keep working on it. But if we can keep producing those type of games, we'll be in the game for longer, which is good.
Ryan, what did you think about Simo on the weekend, saying farewell to him? We got the toss of the coin, of course. He did a bit of a funny as well, as you love to see.
Bizarre.
It looked up at
the Marmalade Boys.
Yeah, the Marmalade Boys, exactly right. But what were your thoughts on that, first and foremost? And then who is going to be the full-time replacement, do you think, for Adam Simpson?
Yeah, well, firstly, can I just say Adam Simpson, I know the last 3 years have been awful for West Coast fans and it's been really hard on him and he's been the face of it because he's the one who fronts up 5 or 6 times a week, press conferences, post-match, pre-match. He does a segment with us on Monday nights on 7 over here where I've had to ask him every second week, about his job and he fronts up every single week and he does it with class. So hats off to him. The first 7 years of his career as a coach were fantastic. I ran some numbers the other day and he was at 65% winning ratio. Now, and had that continued, he would have been a top 4 coach all time. That's just how good those first sort of 7 seasons were. And then obviously things have unravelled a little bit since then. But the 2018 Premiership, it was a really special moment yesterday. He got out there and he, as you said, he tossed the coin. But just before that, he spoke to the crowd and the crowd, just everybody in that stadium stood up. And it was one of those ovations where they're cheering and then as he's talking, the cheering just got louder and he had to stop. You know those great ovations? It was a really special moment for a coach who, West Coast have been around for nearly 40 years. They've had 3 significant coaches, Mick Malthouse, John Worsfold, and now Adam Simpson. All of those men have led them to AFL premierships. So that will be the thing that he gets remembered for, 15 to 20 years from now. It won't be the seasons of the last couple of years, which were, problematic for a number of reasons, and he had only some control over those results. So hats off to Simo. And in terms of the replacement, Schofield's doing the job now, and we were talking yesterday on Triple M and just saying, look, hey, he's got 7 games. He's the guy with the job right now. So, we've seen interim coaches come in and do really, really well and get the gig. We've seen it plenty of times. So Jared Schofield will be a contender, and they were pretty good yesterday, West Coast. They weren't awful. They turned up and they played with energy against a good side. Clearly, Dean Cox is going to be the favourite for this, not just because he's West Coast royalty. If they were going to build a statue of a player, Coxie might be the one from West Coast. He's that loved over here. There might not be a more likeable player. But he also has the great apprenticeship that he's done, firstly at West Coast and then again over in Sydney. He's worked under John Longmire. Sydney are going really well right now. And he'll get a pretty long leash if he gets the gig from West Coast fans. They'll put up with a couple of years of losing because they trust Coxie. Yeah. So I think he is clearly the number 1 candidate, but there will be others. They've been mentioned already. We've heard the names: Ashley Hansen, Jamie Graham, Brett Montgomery, Hayden Skipworth is another one at Collingwood who I think is an outside chance. And then, of course, the big dogs, Nathan Buckley. People have mentioned Chris Scott, John Longmire going for a big fish. It's a big, big race. I think Cox right now would have to be, very, very far in front.
Broady, you've been in this position, of course, with Minnie or McWalter last year. Is there much unrest, I guess, amongst the players, or do you just have the utmost faith in the football club that they're going to put the best person in that position at the club?
Yeah, I think you do. You leave it up to the big dogs, and it's well above our pay grade, that's for sure. They bring in good people. Like we brought in a guy called Paddy Steinford from the outside who's dealt with like the Celtics and Patrick Mahomes and all this stuff. So they source people who are very well educated in this area, and then you trust them to make the right decision. Andrew McGalter's one that I'd throw up for the West Coast job too. He's an unbelievable coach. He obviously just missed out with Uze coming in. Now he's at Melbourne as an assistant coach, and he's a ripper. So I'd love for him to even get an interview or give a chance to go out there.
Broady, how much changes when you get a new coach? Like, is it everything? Is it just a couple of things? Like, is it that different when you go from, like you've done it now, from Damien Hardwick to Adam Uze? How much of it shifts?
When we're versing an interim coach, normally we lose. We've versed every single team we've versed, and they've got an interim coach. We've been absolutely smacked by them. But nothing much does change. Obviously, they try and keep the same messaging. It's the same game plan. There might be a little tweak here and there, or there might be the odd positional change on the ground. But no, overall, nothing does change. And when Dimmer knew he was cooked, and we probably knew Dimmer was cooked a little bit too. So when you get a new coach come in, the energy does lift, and you get this belief like, all right, here we go, and the energy does rise. But end of the day, they make the right decision who comes in, and Uze's been unbelievable, and boys just absolutely rally for him. And at the moment, we're just spewing we can't get a few more wins for him.
Yeah, Rhino CEOs meeting over in the West as well.
Yeah, big dogs all in town, and this is the first time they've ever done it here. So they catch up 3 to 4 times a year, so that's not the uncommon part. As I said, the interesting bit is that they're doing it in Perth. There's been a lot of noise over here. I'm not sure how much of it you guys have heard in Victoria, but there's a lot of talk about the travel and the equality, and I've been banging on about it for a while. The draw, it's always going to be unbalanced. There are 10 teams that are in one state, so you're never going to have it completely even. It's impossible. But I think what the WA clubs have been asking for a really long time is just some allowances, whether it be an extra home game, whether it be no 5-day breaks, no 6-day breaks of travel, all these things that you can sort of put in place that just maybe take 5% or 10% even of the tax of travel off of it. Because, and you would know this, Broady, when the Victorian clubs come to Perth, it's a big bloody deal. Like they plan for it for weeks in advance. It's a whole thing. They have conversations about it. Our teams are doing it every single week or every second week. So, look, that'll be high on the agenda. There will be a number of other things discussed, the academy bidding process, the father-son bidding process, and whether or not that'll come in this year. There's obviously a couple of clubs hoping it won't, Carlton being one of those with the Camporelli twins, high on the agenda for them. So there's a lot that's going to be discussed, the state of the game, of course, as well. I believe they're going to be talking about Brownlow night too, and whether it works on the day where it's on, whether it works better on a Sunday or a Monday, or is that the right week to have it at all? So I think the Brownlow will be high high on the agenda. And the opening round, did it work? Gather round, that's already got a big tick. What else can be done? Will there be something we see in WA? There's a lot of talk about the WA Day holiday, which is in June. And could there be something in Perth where they add a big blockbuster game to a couple of local games and you have a weekend of footy here in Perth? Maybe not all clubs, but it's a selection of a few, and it's sort of its own event. So I think those things will be on the agenda. They're all flying in this afternoon. So, yeah, all the big dogs in town.
Broady, we were just having a chat off air before. You said if you were playing for West Coast or Fremantle in particular, you'd find the travel really challenging.
Yeah. It's a big. You've asked me before would I the lure to go back home, and it's probably one thing that traveling every second week. I don't know if I could do it. We've done it twice this season, and it knocks you around. It makes you feel like you're coming off a massive hangover, coming back, and it throws you around. And hats off to them for doing it every second week. And I think there has to be some leeway coming. I don't know what it is. Out of my pay grade, but I think they do it tough, the West teams, because it's a big ask.
What about Brownlow Medal night? You happy with it on a Monday, or want it on a Sunday, or what would you?
I'm irrelevant either.
Neither here nor there.
I'm not good enough to go. I'm not good enough to get votes, so it's irrelevant to me.
Defenders don't get a lot of votes.
No.
Well, if you were, I like it on a Monday, but I'm of course not.
Do you like it where it is though, Abs? Do you like it grand final week, or could it be in that gap week? Could it be? Does it need to be grand final week? Do you think it's a good part of it?
I think it's a great part of grand final week itself, but with the, I don't know, the pre-finals bye as well. But that might be a little bit too early, I guess. But no, I think it has to stay grand final week. It's a big part of it, isn't it?
I think the one issue we always run into is when there's a non-Victorian club in the grand final, that team can't be at the Brownlow. So, for instance, Sydney, let's say Sydney make the grand final this year, and well, not Heaney now, but Chad Warner and Errol Gould and these guys will be contenders on the night, and they're not there. You know, if it's Brisbane and Lachie Neale's a contender for a third Brownlow, which is really special, he won't be there if Brisbane are in the grand final. So putting it in that gap week, you could have everyone in there, that's an element which I understand. Although I'm like you, I do like it as the start, as the kickoff to what is a really special week for football.
Well, we've got some games to get through because it has been an unbelievable weekend of football with just 6 games to go. The competition is wide open. I think there's 2 games between second place on the ladder and 13th. So it's going to be an unbelievable run home. But before we get into the games itself, Broady, you want to touch on a couple of up-and-coming defenders that you've really got your eye on across the competition? Yeah,
one I touched on before. I was lucky enough to help call the game. Special comments for Carlton the other night and the Bulldogs. And Buku Khamis was one that really stood out to me. I thought he did an amazing job on Kerner. Obviously, he's played forward before, back, forward, not too sure, but I think he's definitely a backman now. He was unbelievable on the weekend. So it got us talking about my top 5 general defenders coming up through the ranks. So Buku Khamis was one. He's 24, so not too young yet, but still up and coming, get settled down back. I had Darcy Wilmot. This is not in any order, but I just think he's so explosive and so confident, and he defends first, which is what I love. But then when he gets it, he's like a cannon. He just goes bang straight back at him. So he's another one. Tom Brown from Richmond. I think he's an elite kick. He's only growing week by week. He's pretty tall, so I think he's got that ability to become an intercept defender too, once he builds a little bit of confidence. Judd McVie, career best game on the weekend. He's a shutdown player if you need him to be. Like he can play on a Charlie Cameron or whatever, or Toby Green. But on the weekend we saw him run off and get a lot of touches, 23 touches, averaging 6 intercepts, but had 15 on Saturday night, which is just a huge number, 15 intercepts. West Coast over there, Ryan, Brady Hoff, I think he's a great player, great shutdown player. I didn't watch the game on the weekend, but Charlie Cameron had 4 touches. I'm guessing Brady played on him. I'm not sure.
He did. And he had 2 goals. One of them was a 50-metre penalty that Harley Reid gave away accidentally. And the other one, Hoff came off for his only 2-minute rest of the game, and he kicked on Tom Cole. So
that happened to me on the weekend.
You hate that, don't you?
Oh, it happened to me on the weekend with Toby. It's not what you like, but I think he's a great lockdown defender, which they probably don't get enough recognition for.
Yeah.
I'm probably being a bit biased because I'm a lockdown myself, but he's only 21. He's got a massive career coming up ahead of him, and a few more big scalps. But yeah, that's my top 5 in no particular order.
What about Mac Andrew?
Yeah, Mac Andrew. Yeah,
he's one of my favourite players to watch across the competition so far.
And is it Lee Kalia for Giants? Yes. He didn't play yesterday, but geez, he's got some gifted talents, and he'll be back in the side, I'm sure, no doubt.
Oh, that's a great list. It's a very good list.
That's my young list, and obviously you got the older guys,
Love it.
which are there, but they're the young and up and coming.
Nice little defenders touch on today's episode of Footy Talk. We love that. Hey, Rhino, let's chat Fremantle Dockers and the Hawks, because that was a game down in Tasmania, of course, on Saturday. The Dockers stay in 5th spot. They're still inside the top 8. And for the Hawks, they take the 4 points, but they don't unfortunately move a place on the ladder and the rankings. But that was a great game of footy.
Yeah, it was. The Hawks are just hurt by their percentage, aren't they? They keep winning, but they just can't get over that hump. Look, I always think at the start of the year when I look at the fixture, anytime Hawthorn has a game in Tassie, I assume they're going to win. Like they're just so good down there. They've made it a real home away from home. I'd love to know what the numbers are. Even when Hawthorn aren't a superb team, they're still fantastic when they play down in Launceston. So I was kind of expecting Hawthorn to win the game. Fremantle were definitely in a position where they could have gone on with it and won it. But the James Sicily move late was a really great coaching strategy there from Sam Mitchell. So Sicily bobbed up, I think kicked 3 in the end, at least
3, 2 in the last quarter.
3. Yeah, so he was the difference really, and then and Luke Bruce as well. So Fremantle will be kicking themselves because that was a real chance. All the teams around them kind of didn't win. The right results went their way, and so they didn't suffer too much. But now they put themselves in that vulnerable spot that another slip up, if they lose to Melbourne, for instance, this week, they could find themselves out of the 8. Like that's how tight it is. So is it opportunity missed? But the Hawks, they keep coming.
Sets up a massive game on Saturday with Collingwood at the MCG. But Broady, what makes James Sicily such a great player?
It's funny you say I had James Sicily here on my phone at the moment. He did that. I can't remember who he did it. He did it against Marvel, and got them the win when he went forward. And then on the weekend, he pretty much single-handedly won them the game by going forward.
That was the one when he had a busted-up shoulder too earlier in the season.
His shoulder was done, and he went up forward, took some massive marks, won them the game there. So he's one of the game's best intercept markers, but every time he goes forward, they get on top and then they win. So is he a permanent forward, or do they keep doing this when they need to get the win? Do they put Sicily down there? But that's the question for the coach. But yeah, maybe he plays forward full time because they've got they got Scrimshaw down there and Frosty. So I think they can hold up pretty well down back with Sicily up forward. But
I think Sis stays back. He has to.
You reckon?
He holds it up so well, but what a luxury it is for Sam Mitchell to have an ultimate swingman like him that you can put forward and know that he's going to impact. Hey, Rhino, you'll like this one. Big Lloyd Meek, or as Billy Brownless was calling him on the weekend, Lord Meek. He had 51 hit-outs against Luke Jackson, and he was actually the collateral damage for the Darcy and Jackson, I guess, combination at Fremantle. He's, of course, come over to Hawthorn. He's taken that number 1 spot off Reeves, and he's having a really big impact.
Yeah, and I know Fremantle were flat about losing him. That was the summer where they lost a fair few players that brought Luke Jackson in, and he just wanted an opportunity, and he went to Hawthorn. He had to fight it out with Ned Reeves for that number 1 spot. But if you go down the list of ruckmen this year, he's absolutely in the top 6 or 7 rucks for the season, which is remarkable when you think about it. Obviously, Max Gawn's had a great year. Big Nanks had a fantastic year over at Richmond. There's a few others as well, but he has really taken that spot and made it his own. He's a fantastic player and a great guy too. Like, he's a country lad, real salt of the earth stuff. I'm really happy for Lloyd Meek because now he's the guy. Like, he's clearly gone past Ned Reeves. He's the number 1 ruckman at Hawthorn. I couldn't be happier for him.
Keegs is claiming that because he is the ruck coach at Hawthorn, of course, and Lloyd thinks that we named my cat after him, so he'll claim that one. Where to for Port Adelaide as well? They went down to the Gold Coast Suns by 14 points up there, of course. We know how good the Suns are at home. Mally Rosas was back in the side and he looked really dangerous inside 50 with 2 goals too. The Suns had a spread of 10 different goal kickers. They were just attacking so aggressively and had multiple options in front of goal. But for Port Adelaide, they're in a pretty tricky spot at the moment. They certainly haven't been flying over the last 5 to 6 weeks. And as we've touched on how close the competition is, Broady, it puts them in a precarious position.
Yeah, well, they lost Marshall within the first quarter, which never helps, losing a key forward. So
what are the chances of doing your hammy in that fashion as well?
He's probably lucky that's all that happened with Big Charlie land on top of him. He's a monster of a man, Big Charlie. But yeah, that would hurt him. You key forward going down the first quarter. That puts you on the back foot pretty quickly. But we've got Port this weekend in Adelaide, so we love playing there. But hopefully we can go up there and show what we did on the weekend against the Giants and put it up to them because they're they're up and down at the moment, but their best is very good and good enough.
Ryan, if you Ken Hinkley, what are you saying to Jason Horne-Francis? Because that was a big thing out of the game. He's one of the best young players in the competition. There's no doubt about that. But he probably just lost his cool on a number of occasions.
Yeah, and look, that happens with young players. You kind of want them playing as close to the line as possible. We're seeing it over here with Harley Reid almost every game. He's having some sort of stoush with a player or an umpire or something. And those guys are high-energy players too. They're game-breaking players, so they're going to have those moments. We've seen it for years with Toby Green, and he's only sort of just got it under control now. So, look, I think you don't give him a pass, but you have to just say, look, we need you keeping your head, because we're going to lose games if you're not switched on all the time, because you're one of our best players. He's one of their 3 best players. Port Adelaide are in trouble. They're outside the 8. People had him at the start of the year as a potential contender, an outside contender with the changes they made in the off-season, but it just hasn't worked. Things are still tight, so they can turn it around. A couple of wins and suddenly you're looking okay. But I'd be concerned.
Broady, I know this is a question without notice, but I'm going to ask you about who you think 4 to 8 is going to be.
4 to 8.
Yeah, we've got 6 games to come. At the moment, it is Brisbane Lions 4th, Fremantle 5th, Essendon in 6th, the Giants in 7th and Melbourne in 8th. But if you look at the sides that are knocking on the door with Port Adelaide, Western Bulldogs, Gold Coast Suns, of course the Pies, the reigning premiers, they're in 12th spot, and then the Hawks. Who do you think's gonna climb in there?
I think the Giants will stay there, if not go up into the top 4.
Okay.
I think Freo will stay there. I think the Dogs will sneak in and have a red-hot crack. It could be a bit of 2000 and when was it when they came from the elimination final and won it? 2015?
16.
2016?
16,
Yeah, so that they're every chance to do that again. And for the final spot, it's a tough one.
It's so hard.
It is very hard. No Gorney for Melbourne, but they were great on the weekend against the Bombers. Maybe Melbourne hang on for 8th.
Melbourne hang on for 8th.
Yeah, I think Bombers will slide out.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting run.
But yeah, it's a great, if you're a football fan, this is one of the best seasons that we've had in a long time. Anyone's in it at the moment.
I have a little bit of a bone to pick with the club that I have supported my entire life, and that is the fact that Riley Thilthorpe had his return game into the AFL on the weekend, and they brought him in as the bloody sub. This is a 200-plus centimetre key position forward. He's coming back into the AFL system for his first game in a very, very long time, back from a knee injury, of course. Are you guys about that? Is that a little weird, or am I just complaining over nothing?
No, I don't like it. Look, if you don't think he can play a full game, then give him another game in the SANFL. I mean, he was good when he came on. He kicked a couple of goals. He's clearly a huge part of their future. We've seen his absence isn't the only issue with Adelaide's season, but I think they were preparing for a breakout year, and he never got on the park until now. So, no, I don't like it. I feel like your sub, and I hope we get rid of the sub rule in the long term, but I feel like your sub really should be a high-energy sort of running type player that can really bring some speed and pace in that last sort of quarter of footy when everyone else is getting tired. I don't know. Maybe Broady has a different opinion on that, being a current player, but that's how I feel about it. A tall doesn't really make sense to me.
Broady hates it. You told me you hate it.
I hate it. He did come on and have 7 touches and kick 2 in the last quarter. So he had a massive impact, which is awesome. And I think he's been eating muscles in his rehab program because he's a monster of a man now. He's come back huge. But I hate it too. I hate the sub rule. I just think, especially debutant kids, like they might play 5 or 10 minutes, and the kids, you ask the kid, they don't care. They rap just to be playing, which is fair enough. But also, you'd love to see them play a whole game. So why not make it 5 on the bench, or make it 4 on the bench, and maybe extend the rotations a little bit, so maybe we reduce injuries.
But even the mental side of it for Riley, right?
Yeah.
You're coming back for your first game of AFL football in a very long time. You want to just know you're cracking in from the first quarter. You've got 4 quarters of footy to get through, not the mental side of being, just sitting there not knowing when you're going to get injected into the game.
Yeah, I agree, 100% agree. I just don't know why we need the sub, and I agree with you, Ryan. I think it will change at some point. Not sure if it'll be next season or season after, but to keep it at 5 or go to 4 and add rotations. But I'm not sure what it is. And if you got 5, well, then there's more rotations. We have an absolute injury crisis at the moment across the whole board. Maybe that'll reduce injuries. Who knows? But it can only help.
Ryan Daniels, Nathan Broad, that's all we've got time for on Monday's edition of Footy Talk. I feel like we could sit here for 3 hours and probably not get to all of the news across round 18, but thank you very much to you both for being here.
Thanks, it was great. You're right, it's one of the closest seasons ever, so hopefully it's a grandstand finish coming up.
Broady, what's on for today?
Dad duties today, back
Samara.
home. Yeah, look, little Samara, she's got attitude already and she's 11 months, so I'm up for it.
She is very cute. You guys have been listening to Footy Talk. If you have any questions for us, hit us up on Instagram at footytalk_pod or at TikTok at footytalkpod. If you're listening on Spotify, hit the bell to be notified when we drop a new episode. Tomorrow, you've got Joey Montagna and Nick Rewalt. We'll see you then.